Hello and welcome to a Bermuda deck profile based around Lupina. So this deck I rushed to build it, but I kind of arrived barely on time for the shop challenge. And I mainly brought it so I can test it there, but I didn't have enough time since I did arrive fairly late. So because of that, I only had the incomplete games in between my rounds after finishing the odd round here and there. So the deck hasn't had any complete games, just like my Go-Go deck profile, which I hadn't played a single game with of that specific list. But then the deck itself, I'll explain the card choices. This is just sort of my hand at trying out V series Bermuda after not really doing much with Bermuda in like centuries. So, and I just thought this would be a fun one to base around because there's quite a lot of different Bermuda decks you can build, but there's too much focus on like very few versions. It's literally a whole nation, this entire clan. So we've got 4 copies of Lupina. Lupina is the main boss of the deck that I'm basing it around because it's kind of underrated, and it'd be cool to experiment with something that's not used much, and that's sort of why I wanted to build it. There's also a bit of the Tony Tucker reference as well, because the card is drawn by Tony Tucker, and he's done artwork as well for games like the Shining series. I played Shining Resonance, so I kind of have a bit of familiarity. That kind of just draws me in a bit as well to Lupina more, and her ability is really good because she has an axe skill, so it's not as great in premium because obviously you stride over, but she has the axe skill. We can Soul Blast 2 and then search your deck search top 7 of your deck, and then you just call anything from among them. And then it has to be a normal unit though. And once you do that, you then give a gift marker, force marker, onto that circle. And her other skills, when she attacks, you can Can Blast 1 and then just stand all your circles with force. So you get the natural force of riding her, and then use the skill part of the force. So you have the 2 markers on turn 3. And not only do you have the 2 markers on turn 3, but you're also getting up to 5 attacks, which makes it really good. So she's a very, very basic and very just generally good ride up card. So that's one of the appeals of the card. Then we have 2 copies of Orange because you can't always ride Lupina every game, so you have Orange as a backup. She also gains a force marker, and she can bounce your field back to hand to give you some defense or reuse some on-play skills. She can also generate a unit from your deck as well, so that's useful if you want to search for something like, say, the Pearl Sister. And then she gains 10k, which is a bit of pressure to boost as well. So just so that you get around with people who try to do a cheeky 15k shield drop. Nope, you have to drop a bit more if you want to do 2 to pass. 10k to Vanguard is pretty good in V form, actually. It's also like why I find Night Rose a bit harder at times. Like when Night Rose sees me on grade 3, then it's kind of what makes a big difference when they're doing the Skull Dragon combos. So it's very good. And then 4 copies of Liselet. So Liselet it's a broken card actually, because I didn't realize how good this really was. So it kind of makes sense why. I mean, I knew it was really stupid when they first made it, but the scale in stupidity, like you start to actually realize it once you play with the card. You can call it while you're on grade 1. It's a hard once per turn, but who cares when you're playing grade 1s, right? Pseudo grade 1s even. So you're able to spread those around anyway as you're playing into the game. Bermuda seems to actually have quite a handful of hard once per turns, I've noticed. They kind of do need to though. Maybe even Q-Tai should have been, but I think the idea with the hard once per turn is that when you bounce a Bermuda card, because there's a lot of bouncing cards, then you're basically able to reuse the on-play skills again. So I think that's sort of one of the reasons you kind of need that mechanic to be placed on some Bermuda cards. But then she has like a free +1, so she can call a card. And because Bermuda bounces cards, it makes Liselet even better in Bermuda Triangle because the thing is that if you put, like, for example, a draw PG or a heal trigger, you can just bounce it to your hand. And now you've got your card, so it's not even a waste. She can also soul charge a card instead of placing it, but you don't really do it as often because it's Bermuda Triangle, and you can bounce cards back anyway. There's even less incentive to soul charge. So if this had been in any other clan, maybe you would have soul charged the card, but you're not as likely to do it just because it's Bermuda Triangle. So for Liselet, good for rushing as well. Just be smart with your counter blast, but we're not really using any counter blast in the early game anyway, so I think that helps a lot, because then if your opponent damage denies you, you can still go live with Lupina and just swing, or Orange as well. Then 4 copies of not that good of a card, to be fair, but we've got Dagny. So she's there because there's a grade 1 that can search for her, basically 3+1. So that's very nice, and she can soul charge, which could be okay for an engine as well. She can give Lupina a crit. So if you want your Lupina to actually have pressure, then you can do it with that as well. But yeah, she's generally there as an engine, more or less. And then we've got 2 copies of Seria. I didn't have enough space to play more. So she is quite good because she can't bounce, which is sort of the reason why I didn't want to play her too many copies. And the thing is that when she's played, you can discard 1, check top 3, and then just add 1 to hand. But she can also gain power as well. But if your opponent's on grade 3, instead of gaining 5, she can gain 10. So she's also a beta option as well, and she can be placed from anywhere. So even if you want to use it with Orange, that's also decent as well. Then we have 3 copies of Aqua. So Aqua is really insane. You can bounce a normal unit when she's placed, and then you can draw a card and discard, so you can reuse your on-place abilities easily with this card. So if you play any on-place grade 1, for example, Liselets as well included, and obviously grade 3 searchers and the other grade 1 I'm about to show you in a bit, then you can do it again the following turn. Of course, in the early game, it's never always that easy to decide what to discard, but you generally like having the option for the games where it is easier to decide. So, and you get to draw first before discarding, which is what made her better and why I didn't really want to play as many copies of this over Aqua, because she can bounce and she can also draw before discarding, which I think is helpful. And of course, she's a hard once per turn, so just be aware of that. Obviously, she's got the ability to check over the 3 cards rather than drawing into 1. So technically, she can get you the high quality choices. So it isn't the easiest options. Like, I might even rethink it, but we've got 1 of each Pearl Sister because it's broken. And if you just draw into 1, you can then try and call 1 of them off Orange as well. Or if you use Lupina in your main phase and you happen to hit the other Pearl Sister, because it's an act skill, you don't have to call the other Pearl Sister from hand right away. So if you find what the other one in your top 7 already, then you can just place it, and then you can set up your other Pearl Sister as well, and then just have the 2 there. Rather than, had it been an on-attack skill, of course, then you would have had to decide to actually call the card first, and then just gotcha and gamble into the top 7. So Lupina being act skill actually helps for deciding if you want to call the Pearl Sister from hand, which is good. So that's a very helpful ability. Just a way to be unfair and steal games as well. Then we've got 4 of the grade 3 searchers, the Sednas. She can search for Lupina, Orange, or grade 3 heals. Then there's 4 copies of Elly. So Elly is very pressuring on hit. Retire herself if she's on rear. Otherwise, don't do anything, because on Vanguard you can't retire her, of course. And then you just search your deck for another copy. And she does have the other skill that complements it. So when she's played, she can put an Elly from a drop zone to the bottom of your deck. And then she becomes a 20k shield, which is pretty strong. Helps you defend against some nasty stuff as well. So very good in the early game to do some pressure. And it's Bermuda triangle, so you never really feel that bad about calling units early anyway. So well built for this deck. Bermuda has a lot of crazy high quality cards. And then we've got 4 copies of the, well, Dagny or Lupina Searcher. She's a 3+1, so when you place her, she checks top 5 for a Soul Blast cost, and then you just reveal any of the 2, and then you add them to your hand and then shuffle your deck. She has another ability where if she has a Force marker on herself, then your Vanguard, that's Lupina, gets the 10k power, so you can also power up Lupina. Similar reason to why you'd find, of course, Night Rose or Orange a bit scary is the idea that your Vanguard can gain 10k, because then you've got your big rear guards as well on the side. Then to the trigger lineup, we play a total of 8 crits, and then 4 draws PGs, because I want to be able to defend, and draws are nice in this deck. And to be fair, the crits aren't the biggest deal anyway in the world, so it's okay to play draws. It's more of a multi-tack heavy beta deck anyway, so I think it's fine. And then 4 of the grade 3 heals, And that's more or less it with the Lupina deck profile. So let me know how you found it. Try it out as well and see for yourself. I've not had any real chance to try this. I've played only like 3 or 4 incomplete games, so that's basically my test here. But it looks pretty solid. So it does run pretty well. Like when you first play into the game, your hands are just always good. So that's kind of what makes this deck very appealing, and it does rush better as well. So it helps to make your multi-attacks in the mid game more threatening as well. And because you don't really care about your opponent damage denying you, it makes it even more better. So other than that, I will catch you guys later, and goodbye.